Hello and welcome to Pull or Pass After Dark. This is our we have lots of other stuff to say and we haven't got time on our weekly 1 hour show. Yeah, I probably could have done better with that. Hello, I'm Mark and I'm with Zach. Hello, Zach.
Hey, Mark. How do? How do?
How could you possibly get how do wrong? Yeah, I trusted you to do the first 2 After Darks.
And I did fine.
You did, actually. Well done. By the way, we've got a guest. Hello, Will.
Hello, everyone.
This is Will. He is a member of, Zach's book group, and we thought we'd have him on to chat about what we're chatting about today.
Just trying to spell out Manchester Comic Book Club on my hand then. Can't do it.
We are an audio medium.
I'll attach photos.
No, you won't. I upload the shows. Oh, this is being a really good start. Your interviews were dead good. This is probably going to be bollocks. Because, I can say bollocks, because we've decided that this is 18 rated.
Apparently we have, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
By we, probably me.
Just Mark, yeah.
Did you swear on either of your interviews? I don't think you did.
No, I think I managed to rein myself in.
No, well, this is kind of like After Dark. I feel needs to be grittier, darker, swearier. Swearier isn't a word, but you know what I mean.
I get what you're getting at.
Aren't you glad you came on the show, Will?
Oh, I'm enthused.
I'm glad. Do you want to talk about your book group before we talk about this? Because it's kind of like the idea being we're going to get book group members to join us on After Darks. So, talk about the book group.
So, January will be the next meeting. It'll be the 7th, and we will incidentally be reading a TKO book.
Yeah, it's almost like we planned it like this.
That's right.
We did. Zach.
We did, Zach. I know.
Yeah, good. Carry on.
We're reading Sentient by Jeff Lemire and Gabriel Walter.
Yeah.
It's going to be covered today, and it's going to be covered in January, and will be guest hosting January's book club.
Yeah, he's unleashed me on you.
Oh, right, are you not going to be there?
I'm in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a bit far of a commute, really.
I can
we remain in
Skype in,
Manchester.
but I don't know if you want that.
Enjoy Japan, mate.
I will.
Wait, does that mean I've got to find someone to host in January for...
Or I can pre-record loads of just sound bites, and you can make a Zach soundboard.
That involves me having more ability on the desk at Fab Radio than I do.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
That'd be fun, though. Just automated Zach responses.
That was great. Not for me.
Do you remember those things that were like Mr. T in your pocket and you could press it and crazy fool? That'd be brilliant. Like Zach in your pocket. That'd be good. That'd be well good.
Maybe that's the merchandise pull-our passes.
That's what we need.
Out for.
Yeah, our many fan would definitely buy that.
Dozens of listeners.
All them downloads. I'm down with the kids. Shall we get on with it?
Yes.
I'm ready.
So, Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you
We are
very
going
much.
to ask you our 3 standard interview questions.
I'm ready.
Well, Zach didn't ask our last two interviewees our 3 standard interview questions, so you are going to be the first.
I feel honoured.
Good.
Free-form interview. Everything's open.
Yeah,
I
feel a bit of a pioneer.
You are an artist. You make music and stuff. Shit, I can say shit. You make music and shit. So
shit music as well. Just
ooh, burn!
You're in my band.
I know.
You're insulting yourself.
yeah, I know.
Question number 1. Geek origin. What first got you into comics?
It's probably a sadly common answer, but it was the cartoons of the sort of late 90s. So your Spider-Mans, your Batman animated series, your X-Men's.
Oh, X-Men.
They were my gateway drug for sure.
Gateway drug, what a lovely way of putting it. To be fair, I think the people we meet at the comic book group, it is borderline addiction, and I think you're one of the worst.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So, what was your first experience of actually buying comics then? So you watched the programmes, and then what happened?
Well, it was my mum who worked in a small southeast town, not small,
Depends on your definition of small.
Yeah.
Is it smaller than London?
Smaller
Well, then
than
it can
London,
probably be called
but
small.
Maidstone's pretty big, isn't it?
Maidstone is quite big.
Anyway, by the by, she would just go and dip in the bargain bins for me and bring back all sorts of mad stuff. But as a kid as well, you're just delighted to get whatever you get, don't you? So I'd just read the same issue of whatever she managed to pick up just over and over again.
Thunderstrike.
Always with the bloody Thunderstrike.
I did have definitely a Youngbloods issue because I remember Bad Rock.
Good.
That's a cool name. And then years later, rediscovering it and thinking, I remember this. This was something.
It's a cool name, but it's
not a cool guy, but...
So this is the one that people tend to hate, but I really like it.
So if you were a shape, what shape would you pick?
No, that's not the question. Although you can answer that question.
Dodecahedron.
That is a good word.
Solid. It's a good start.
What is a dodecahedron?
God, have they got 12 sides, I think?
That's a lot of
I thought there were
sides.
10 sides.
I think that's a decahedron. Christ, now you put me on the spot.
Please
I'll
tweet
go
us
for-
with your answers.
Yeah, what is a dodecahedron? Because we don't know.
I'll go for rhombus instead, because
Rhombus.
good name.
Another good
Solid
word.
name. Solid naming.
But that's not the question.
Okay.
Alright.
Although I think maybe we should ask that from now on because you're a weirdo.
I don't think I'm that weird. I think it's a valid question.
Mount Rushmore. What 4 characters would be on your comic book Mount Rushmore?
Okay, so I did get the best part of about 15 seconds head start on this question.
Good.
And I've come up
We
with
are
these-
generous.
These 4. Admittedly, one of them is a duo, but I'm treating them as a single because I thought to treat them as 2 might be a cheat.
Right, okay, go on.
Takes away an option. So we start with Spider Jerusalem.
Okay.
Quantum and Woody, that's my duo. But I think I could have said
half and half head.
I could have said it was Quantum and Woody, but that I'm getting out of an answer there.
I'm gonna let you have Quantum and Woody.
Little Gus from Saga,
Oh, yeah, okay.
because he's just delightful.
Yeah,
And John Blacksad.
I don't know who that is.
Double animals, interesting.
Yeah, he's an anthropomorphic cat who's also a PI, smokes cigarettes and wears trench coats.
He's the best.
He sounds amazing.
He is, yeah.
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 What comics are you in?
Blacksad.
Okay.
Big Euro comic.
Yeah, Spanish, but published by Dark
Spanish and
Horse in English.
French, I think.
I think Spanish published in French originally because that's how Europe works.
Mierda Zutalos.
But
Didn't
now,
understand those words, I'm going to agree.
Spanish for shit is mierda. Zutalos is French for... Oh my goodness. I am well educated. Don't know anything else in either of those languages. But why is there an anthropomorphic? Easy for me to say. Why is this cat on your Mount Rushmore?
I mean, for a start, it's a great comic and he's a great character. He's that classic sort of pulp PI, but he's also a giant cat. But secondly, there's something about do you know in films when like human characters die, take it or leave it. Somebody kills the dog.
That is true.
Yeah,
That's it, right? That's why John Wick works.
Oh, don't. I didn't know. I was fucking livid. I got so upset. I was like, well, I can't watch this film.
But
I can't watch this film.
That's why it works. The liberal in me says, like, live and let live. As soon as they kill the dog, that's it, murder them.
No.
Every single one.
Fully justified murder spree.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when you anthropomorphise a character, you give them human traits, but they look like beautiful animals.
Right.
Then you've got me.
Blacksad's got that great balance as well of kind of the artwork has got cats expressions that are also human expressions.
Yeah.
Which is,
What was the?
I need to read this comic.
It looks a bit like if old Disney animation grew up in the sort of 1920s.
film noir.
Yeah,
kind of.
film noir style.
Damn.
It's real good.
It is real good.
It sounds real good.
It is.
Gosh.
It's probably somewhere in this room. It's
Right, you need to.
right there.
One of you need to lend this to me. Looks like Zach's lending it to me, seeing as you just stole it off his bookcase. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, no worries.
Safe.
Great. I can lend it you in Spanish if you'd prefer the challenge. Ooh, maybe Catalan, actually.
Nada.
CC.
See, you're learning Spanish.
I am.
What? Well, are you learning Spanish or Catalan?
Spanish because Duolingo is limited.
Right.
But I'm meant to be learning Catalan. But
What's
it's
Spanish
slow.
for black sad is very good?
Pass.
El black sad es muy bien. I think that's actually right.
Yeah, probably.
Go me!
Because Black Sad is called Black Sad in Spanish as well as English. So.
Not like...
Often how names work.
Yes. Well, sometimes they translate.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Like, Marvel titles get translated to have Spanish titles.
El Spider-Man.
She-Hulk is Hulka.
Good.
In fact, that's probably better.
It's the one that sticks with me. I can't think what everyone else is.
Probably just better than She-Hulk.
Good. I approve of Hulka. Anyway, last question is dream TV show. What would be your dream TV show based on a comic book? Who would you cast in the main roles? This gets harder as we get more comic book shows. We had like a massive, like, no comic book stuff happening, and now you can't have Watchmen because that's happened. You can't have Moon Knight because that's happening.
I think asked me a year ago, it'd have been The Boys hands down.
Brilliant.
And then they made it, so that was all right.
Was it what you wanted? Was it how you expected? Did it hit you right in the feels?
I actually really liked it. I think the changes they've made away from the comic have been to its benefit.
Mm-hmm.
I never like watching the same thing I've already read.
Yeah.
I don't see the point of the direct translation. Just read the comic.
I felt the same about Preacher. I loved the Preacher comics, but I loved kind of like these are the characters that you love, but we're going to do a TV show inspired by the comics rather than. And I know a lot of people got cross about that, but for me, I thought it was perfect because I don't know what's coming, but these are characters that I really love.
Yeah.
I think all the most successful ones have. I think Umbrella Academy is the same.
Yep.
Where it's sort of just parallel to the story. It's the same beats, it's the same characters, but everything's twisted slightly.
Mm-hmm.
So what would it be now that you've got the boys?
The problem is
Would it be Black Sad?
Well, that's it. Just to rest on answers I've sort of already given. So Black Sad or Transmetropolitan.
Okay.
Who would you cast? I mean, Black Sad would probably be easier because I could see that as an animation. So you're thinking voice work.
I know there was a campaign on Twitter to get Idris Elba as John Blacksad.
I could work with that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, Idris Elba. I need a moment.
I just have a sort of deep love for Chiwetel Ejiofor, but that's by the by. just wanted you to both know that.
Good. And our many fan.
Yeah, and our fan.
Many fan.
Many fan.
Yeah.
Oh God, I mean, casting's really hard, and like I say, I think Elba would be a good shout for Black Sad.
Yeah. It's
what about Weekly?
I mean, that's even harder.
I tend to go for casting
Jason Schwartzman.
I don't know who that is, but I tend to I hate fan casting, but I always go for Kiefer Sutherland as everybody, because two things: Kiefer Sutherland's voice is the best, and Kiefer Sutherland is so attractive. Oh,
I've had this conversation so many times, and
I know,
never
but he's
understand.
still attractive, Zach.
Yeah, is he?
For me, anyway.
Who would you have for Spider? If you were to make a Transmet, who would you have for Spider Jerusalem?
I mean, 20 years ago, Patrick Stewart, and I know that's who everybody wanted as well.
Prim
so.
and proper to get that.
I know, but imagine it, just
like Garbage Man into reality. Yeah, I don't know.
So who was the guy who played like his clone in the
Tom
Star-
Hardy.
Yeah, Tom Hardy.
Yeah, it could be Tom Hardy. He's
Actually, I mean, he's maybe a bit too buff. Like I see Spider Jerusalem.
I mean, he's
as being
slimmed down to be the Picard clone. He could. It's 20 years later, but I'm sure he could slim down.
That's
to
it.
be.
It's about 60.
Yeah. Spider's a hard one to cast.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
John Blacksad, Idris Elba, and the voice of Jason Schwartzman for his partner, Weekly. There aren't really other recurring characters, are they? Not common enough to.
I think there's a police detective you get more than once, and like a couple of other bits of
Kiefer
staff.
Sutherland.
But he's a villain, and we all know it.
True.
Last Action Hero was on TV the other day, and I really had a good nostalgia to it, because I used to love that as a kid. And objectively, it's a pretty terrible movie, but
it's fundamentally watchable.
Yeah. And I just sort of reminded myself, actually, like, despite his California mayoral campaign, still got a lot of time for old Arnie.
Everybody does.
Could probably get him a character role.
Everybody does. Right, shall we talk about all 8 of the TKO books? The idea was there were a new set of TKO books that were launched about a month ago, is that right?
Thereabouts, yeah, I think.
And they were Eve of Extinction, The Banks, Pound for Pound, and Sentient. And we thought, well, that's cool. We'll do like a pull or pass special on the first issues, because the promotion that TKO Comics do is you can download electronic versions of all of their comics, the first issue out of 6, and if you like them, you can then buy the trades or the comic collections. Or we have discovered they do electronic format, but they keep that quite quiet. And then I was like, well, there are 8 books, because this is the second wave. And the first wave was 7 Deadly Sins, the something Dr. Fang. Is it Sarah?
Fearsome Dr. Fang?
The Fearsome Dr. Fang. Is it Sarah or Sarah?
I've gone for Sarah.
Yeah, me too,
Yes,
Sarah.
I'm down with Sarah.
And Goodnight Paradise.
Yes.
So we thought, well, we don't have the restriction of having to stick to the format that we usually stick to when we do After Dark, so why don't we do all 4 of them? So it's kind of like a long...
All 8 of them.
Bugger. All 8 of them. Yeah. So, should we go... basically, the idea is it's a lot like Pull or Pass, really, is we're going to talk about each of the 4 books in the first wave, and then each of the 4 books in the second wave, and we're just going to say whether or not, having read the electronic freebie, we would like to buy the trade.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So shall we start with 7 Deadly Sins?
Let's.
Yes. I'm just randomly looking in my book, and that was the first one at the top. So, when I first started reading this, I'm a bit of a woolly, liberal, politically correct kind of a dude, and I have a real serious issue with Native Americans ever being portrayed as bad guys.
Yeah.
Because they really weren't. They were kind of invaded by these horrible white people. And I get it. And I was really trepidatious about it, because I expected to hate it if that was the case.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of lull you into thinking that they're going to be the bad guys, and then they bring you back and go, actually, they're not. Yeah. So that really worked for me, because I was about to get very cross, and then I didn't have to get cross.
I think I've got a similar point down, so not necessarily just the Native American thing, but kind of, I think there's certain points in the first issue that rely on but this is how it would have been, with kind of insults and things like that are a bit...
No, I prefer that. I think there was a massive controversy about cutting out the N-word from Mark Twain's stuff. Yes, with the character Nigger Jim, and the idea was that it was offensive, but it was contextualised from a man who supported the cause, so it would be a poor choice to remove them, in my opinion.
I sort of agree. I think it'd be easy to simply never learn from your mistakes by just blotting them out of history. Well, it didn't happen, so therefore it's not a problem. I think if we...
Yeah, that's true.
If you remember it and you view it in a context, like you say, where it explains to people, like, there's a reason we don't say these words. There are reasons behind it, and this is them.
Yeah, and
I think that works.
I think they were quite right to depict some of the what would be considered savagery of the Native Americans, because they did scalp people.
Yeah.
But to portray them as the baddies is so very wrong, because they were defending their homes, etc., 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 etc. And I think after my trepidation, they actually got that right. I really liked how it wasn't, forgive the pun, black and white. It was done very sensitively and appropriately, which you don't get very often. You tend to have old stuff where the cowboys were great, the white people were the goodies, and it's gone the other way more recently. Whereas I think this was much fairer than making it goodies and baddies, which is good.
I'll admit this with a lot of these books. I sort of agree with the first few pages. I kind of felt this is quite standard Western cowboys and Indians fare.
Yeah.
But with a lot of these books, by the time I got to the end of the issue, there was something additional, something more about it that elevated it from its humbled beginnings.
I do think we get a more balanced cast of characters than you do in most Westerns.
I think that's probably fair as well. But I do think it captures the brutality and the almost anarchy of the Wild West. Something that reminded me of... Did you ever watch Deadwood?
Yes.
I loved Deadwood because that was so brutal and so... Just every episode, by the end of it, you were tired. And I felt like this, again, captured that. And I think there's an authenticity to it that you don't get in many Westerns. Because they were all quite cheesy.
I think with the title and knowing it was a Western, there was a... Is this going to become quite Magnificent Seven-esque? Don't get me wrong, there's still time for that. But
yes.
But I guess that's my initial reaction to anything that's a Western with 7 in the title is...
Yeah.
Just something we hadn't discussed beforehand. Where are we at for spoilers? Actually, just because it's only the first issue, but still...
The first issues are free, and everybody can get them, so I don't feel like we should be worried about spoilers, but if people are worried about spoilers, press the pause button, read all the books.
Yeah, come back in.
No pressure, guys, but...
Come back in a few hours. And,
yeah. I think that's kind of standard.
Yeah, fair.
Because I just wanted to comment on the... As you get through the story, you sort of figure out actually what the 7 deadly sins are.
Yeah.
Are these 7 individual people who are sort of brought together through circumstance to... Well, you don't really know what, do you? The book leaves...
Well, there's
leaves
5
that.
more issues, or 5/6 of a trade left to find out, right?
Indeed, and it just sort of sets you off on this cliffhanger, but I enjoyed that.
I loved the cliffhanger. I thought that worked really, really well.
To be fair, I think a lot of the TKO first issues have kind of ended on a nice, well-done cliffhanger.
I think they're getting the format, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's how you bring people back.
No, but I think that's a very valid point, that because this is their marketing strategy of every first issue is free, they're going to have a meaty cliffhanger, a oh shit moment, so that you are encouraged to buy the trade or the 6-issue box set.
Yeah, just have a hook.
And I've always been a sucker for cliffhangers in comic books.
Yeah.
If a new comic has a crap cliffhanger, I'm less likely to buy it. So for me, I like the meaty cliffhangers.
Yeah, fair. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some could consider it manipulative, but
Don't care.
yeah, I'm all
Mark
for it.
has been successfully manipulated.
All the time.
Manipulate me.
Yes. I quite enjoy being manipulated.
Make me feels.
And that's the first soundbite for the pull-up pass.
Oh. The pull-up pass in your pocket. The Mark Adams in your pocket. Brilliant. I don't want to be in anybody's pocket. Well, maybe I do. Maybe not. So, anything else to say about 7 Deadly Sins before we all decide whether we're going to read any more?
What did you think of the art, incidentally?
Really liked it. I felt it was atmospherically appropriate.
Yeah, I very much agree. It kind of just suits the Western style, I think.
Yeah.
I think some people would probably struggle to pull off a Western type thing, but Dan McDade, as my notes say, that could be misspelled or could be the wrong name.
Good. Well done.
Yeah, I think he does well here, and maybe not my favourite art, but I think for this book, yeah, it works.
Atrium Trakanov did the art, so good work on that one.
Well done, Zach.
No, that was my spoiler for who did the art for the Fearsome Dr. Fang, then.
Well done.
Sorry,
That's coming up. I think it's
a lot of notes, not much space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I too enjoyed the art very much. I thought it's atmospheric. It's a bit sort of cartoonish in the fact that I think people are exaggerated to fit the role that they ultimately need to fit, but I quite like that.
Yeah, stylistically I think it wasn't too hokey and did help with the story though.
Oh yeah, enjoyed it. Really good colours as well.
For me, I think it wasn't my favourite of the 8 by any means, but it is something I would like to read in future.
Yeah.
I think it's not a run to the comic book shop and buy it immediately, but it is I will probably buy it in future.
So I think there's also something so refreshing about knowing it's 6 issues.
Yeah.
I feel more inclined to say, well, I will give that a crack, because 6 issues later, if I haven't enjoyed it, fine.
Yeah.
I also like that if you get the kind of slipcase edition of the trades, if you put them all together, it spells TKO, and Just
I do like matching spines.
Yeah.
Oh, that is pretty.
How do you feel about the fact that they're about an inch taller than every other book on your shelf?
It's an interesting one about where I'm going to store them. I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of like the extra space and the kind of, hey, look, focus on the art. Isn't the art nice? I feel like in that sense, yeah, and it makes good logical sense.
I think it means I will store them all together on a shelf as a run. Similarly, I'm a big fan of the T-Pub stuff, the Twisted Dark, and they're slightly smaller than your standard. So I can't cope with a bumpy.
Did you have to separate them out? And
yeah. So I don't do by alphabetical order on my shelves. I do by publisher on my shelves, and because they then look pretty.
But there's certain publishers like Boom. Boom will release books to any size and just be like,
well,
deal with it.
I'm not going to buy any Boom stuff then. Balls to Boom.
You love Boom.
I know.
Hashtag balls to Boom.
I know. I will buy Boom, but they will make me cross. You haven't said whether you're going to buy it, whether you want it.
This isn't one of my favourites. But maybe, similar to what you said, I don't think this is the one I'm going to run out and get, but I would eventually like to read more.
Well?
Yeah, I would pull this. I got enough out of it, and the cliffhanger was good enough that I'd come back for more, for sure.
Well, good start. Shall we do the something of Dr. Fang should have made better notes?
The fearsome Dr. Fang. It's 2 words, man.
Shall we do the fearsome Dr. Fang?
Yes.
Should,
also the same writer, who is also the co-founder of TKO Comics.
Okay, cool.
Zichun.
How good is the front cover?
The front cover's fantastic.
Oh, it's just great.
But also, full disclosure, I've read all of the fearsome Dr. Fang, so my opinion's a bit coloured by...
You can talk about that, and compare what you... Obviously, so you have pulled it. Compare your expectations. That's worth knowing. It wasn't what I expected. I don't know quite what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting it.
I think there's a few twists.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my notes now, and I see that I've written the words, fearsome Dr. Fang might be a real doctor, likes to play the drums. And I'm assuming I was at some point going to write a kind of They Might Be Giants-based joke here, but I just didn't. I've just... put bits of Dr. Worm together. So that's not very helpful. But
this book baffled me. Was it written as contemporary of the time? So it was supposed to have been... Obviously it was written last year, but was it supposed to have kind of emulate how it would have been written in the time setting, or am I getting myself
I think there's a lean
confused
a lean into those old pulp comics, definitely.
Yes,
Whether
so very pulp.
Whether it's just an inspiration or a real...
Because there were some bloody lovely cliches that I thoroughly enjoyed. Like, who writes mwahahaha?
Yeah.
And does it without irony?
And I think that's it. I think they're aware of it, and I think that makes it work for me, is their awareness of the slightly ridiculousness of it all.
Yeah. It was, and it was fun. I've just put fun, intrigued, loved the twist in my notes, and I don't really have much more to say about it than that.
So I do have additional notes on top of the They Might Be Giants thing.
Go on then.
So I did really like the cast. I thought the kind of core group we get towards the end, so Nayland, Fang, Alice, a good group. It did really annoy me, though, that Alice's last name is Lacroix, which, if you're a French character, basically in anything, that's your last name. Fact. It just always is.
Yeah.
Again, isn't that going back to the contemporary pulpy, slightly tongue-in-cheekiness?
And I'd be okay with that if it didn't go beyond the pulp thing and it was still now. You write a French character, best believe we're going with the same names.
Yeah.
And in a world where we're aware now, we can just Google French last names. It still bugs me that they all have the same one.
I mean, Lebeau is a good French last name, right?
It's only a slight change, though, isn't it?
It needs a le, otherwise it's not French. Yeah, it's like it's not Dutch if there isn't a van.
Simple as that.
Yeah. You name me a French surname that doesn't begin with le or la.
Rousseau.
Ah.
Isn't that Spanish? I don't know.
Nope.
I just didn't want to. I didn't want to be proved wrong. I have no.
I'll allow it on this occasion.
Isn't it Le Rousseau anyway?
Yeah, René LaRusso.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll come back to this. I'll compile a list.
We have another comic book episode just about the surnames of France.
There's been quite a lot of French in this podcast.
Yeah.
Oui, c'est bon. Est-ce que tu as des frères ou des sœurs? That's about it.
Pamplemousse.
What does that mean?
Grapefruit.
Good. Good.
And anyone else get anything about Dr. Fang?
Oh shit, yeah.
Fearsome or
I keep
otherwise?
stopping myself from swearing when I don't have to. I have noticed that neither of you have sweared, and it's just me being a swearer.
Fucked it, bollocks bastard.
Excellent.
Maybe I'm just saving it for dramatic effect.
Well, yeah.
For
I read an article.
fucking fearsome Dr. Fang.
Fucking fearsome Dr. Fang. I read an article somewhere that the more intelligent you are, the more likely you are to fucking swear. So what I did there.
Well done. You must be very proud.
Yeah, I'm clearly very intelligent. Sorry, Dr. Fang.
Dr. Fang.
Dr. Fang.
As I've gone on to read this, and I think I really enjoy the first issue.
Right.
I don't think it really does a great job of setting you up for what the rest of the story is, because it's
Oh, right.
it's still very pulpy, but goes on a much more sort of globe-trotting, Indiana Jones-esque sort of adventure story.
Is it like kind of buddy movie style then?
Absolutely. Once you find out, again, I'm not sure I should give this,
Yeah, okay, don't.
just because I think the twist towards the end of this.
Yeah, the
first
twist
issue,
is pretty special.
I think there are two major ones. I think they're both pretty good.
Yeah, let's not talk about the twists, but
Yeah.
But yeah, once as you say, once you get this little cast of 3 characters and they set out on their adventure, it just goes quite a different way, and I really enjoyed the rest of the book. But I think this first issue doesn't necessarily give you that vibe yet.
I guess it is promoted. I don't know if it's in the blurb or somewhere else that I've read it, that it is described as, the globe-trotting adventure, which we don't get in issue 1. We get the one location trotting adventure. You know what I'm getting at? Is it Chicago? I feel like it's Chicago.
I think it might be.
I think it's Chicago, yeah.
But again, the art I think is really good. Really nice colours.
Yeah.
Loads of detail.
So to call him out again, David McCade. Nice art. I think colouring is really great. There's some exterior shots of the art museum, which are all blue and black. Really nice. Just nice art throughout, I think.
Yeah, it's a really nice looking book.
Yeah, and I would agree. Dr. Fang in particular is just so campy, it's great.
Yeah.
The character of Dr. Fang.
Yes. Yeah.
So, what are our thoughts? Is it a pull or is it a pass for the something Dr. Fang?
Well,
I think it's a pull for me. Well, the trade for me.
Let's just go with pull or pass, and then you can elaborate as much as you like after you've said one of those words.
But I've got an alternative name lined up for the.
Go on then.
Just trade or toss, man.
It's not trade or toss. That sounds erotic.
trade or trash.
Trade or trash, I can go
like
with,
that, wouldn't you, Will?
but trade or toss, it just sounds like bad porn that I probably own somewhere.
Like every good teenager's afternoon, are you going to read a comic or masturbate? It's one or the other.
Why not both? I mean, Zach collects that. What was that one? Splurge space one.
Money shot.
Money shot. That was it.
It's a triumph of comic.
I like I said at the time, I'm glad it exists. Don't want.
It'll come around.
Yeah.
To keep mine short, I'd pull, but I've already read it, so
Yeah.
it's a bit of a cheat.
I think I've looked at the 3. I've looked at the 4 in the first wave, and 7 Deadly Sins was my second favourite, and Dr. Fang was my third favourite, and I would probably eventually look at buying Dr. Fang after I'd bought the first one and Deadly Sins, if that makes sense. So it's good enough for me to carry on reading, but it's not a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly enough, looking at it now, I think Dr. Fang might be my favourite of the 4.
Oh, yeah.
Of the original 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Based on this first issue.
Yeah. Should we talk about Sarah? Or Sarah? Or
Full disclosure, I've also read all of this.
Oh, okay, you read Sarah. Okay, good.
So my initial thing with Sarah is there were Soviet snipers versus Nazis.
Yes.
I do feel like it's a slow first issue.
Yeah, I thought it was really slow.
Almost in a way that makes me feel like you have to read this in trade if you're going to read it.
Yeah. I thought they got... I think it was clearly deliberate because war is mostly boring. But unfortunately that, in my opinion, made this book quite boring.
Oh, do you think so?
I kind of feel like with it being Garth Ennis and Steve Epting, though, there's the big guns are going to come out, and I realise what I've said there now is
lulz.
But I kind of feel like it's building to something. I just think that first issue is a slow build.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to like. Its depiction of the camaraderie and how you become desensitized at war is done very, very well. The dialogue is pretty good and gives you a well-rounded depiction of how different people behave in war, and there's a lot to respect in this book. But I don't watch war films, I don't like them. I don't read war comics, I don't like them. I think going into this, there was no chance for this book at the best of times.
Yeah.
But because it was so slow-paced, I really struggled with it.
And I think I might be coloured by what I've read of the rest of it. This vibe doesn't really change, as it is quite a slow book, and there are sort of big set pieces throughout and big story twists. I think the big difference between this one and the other books we've read is there's not really a big cliffhanger at the end.
No.
Yeah, true. It just kind of concludes.
Yeah, you kind of work your way through, you introduce these characters, the situation they're in, who Sarah is, and then nothing. It doesn't sort of give you a big reason to find out.
It almost works as a one-shot, which is not such a hot idea when you're giving it away for free.
I think that might be it. When you've got this, I think you're right. I think this has been written for the trade.
Yeah.
And the others
were written for a single presentation.
I think they just maybe had a bit more nous about it. Perhaps.
Do you think because it was Garth Ennis, he got away with not sticking to you have to do the super hot cliffhanger to get people to buy your book?
If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the best-selling one, isn't it?
Probably.
Could be.
So I think Garth Ennis and Steve Epting, I think you pretty much can just trade on their names and say...
It's got to be said, Epting's art is great.
Oh yeah, it's out of this world.
It does feel like if you told me this was going to be part of Captain America run, and next issue would be Cap and the Soviets, I'd totally believe that.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah,
there's so much with the face as well. Everybody looks different.
Yep,
and it's one of those things, particularly with, sadly, particularly with female faces, a lot is he tends to just be the same face with a different haircut.
Yeah, it happens. You are right.
And you just sort of go, okay, I know that's them because they've got a short dark bob and that one's got long blonde hair, so I know it's her. And in too many cases you think if I just swap their hair they'd be all of these just from a drawing. I think you kind of know who they are. And
that's true.
That lives throughout the rest of the story, I think.
Yeah, and I think the complete detachment of Sarah is quite brave, really, because that's your main character, and she's not very likeable, really. She's a loner, and she's mentally scarred, and just not engaging well, she is interesting, but she's not. You know what I'm getting at? It's like Star Trek Discovery's main character was fundamentally unlikable. And I hated Star Trek.
Maybe that's just me.
I watched the first few episodes of it, and I came out of it every episode going, well, Michelle Yeoh was brilliant. The blue science guy was brilliant. All these brilliant characters revolving around a character that was so fundamentally unlikable. Sarah isn't as bad as that, but the comparison is still there.
See, I would entirely disagree with you. I think Discovery is the best Star Trek I've ever watched.
Couldn't watch it.
I do. I'm somewhere in between. I do think that Michael Burnham is purposely an unlikable character. I think she has to work for affection from the rest of her team.
Yeah.
But also, I agree with Zach that by the end of the second series, I thought that was an absolute triumph.
I gave up. I might give it another go, but I'm much, much, much more excited about Picard. Very excited.
Oh, if you are going to watch it, I won't tell you. But there's another spin-off from Discovery I think you might like.
Oh, okay. So yeah, good depiction of the horror of war, but just not for me.
Yeah.
So it's a pass, and it's my fourth favourite of the of the 4 in the first wave. But Will, you're glad you bought it, right?
I absolutely love this. I think I've only read those 2, so there's no more surprises.
Right.
I've enjoyed both of them, but this one for me feels like a book that I will read again and again. I'm already quite a fan of Garth Ennis, but
I love Garth Ennis, but I just don't like war stuff. Did you buy Sarah and Dr. Fang before you'd read the freebie issues, or
I did?
You did? Okay, so you didn't do it the way that TKO seemed to want you to do.
No,
I think it's a great marketing idea, but you've just circumnavigated it.
Yeah,
good.
I like a lot of the small press stuff. So often I'm sort of seeking out these smaller companies. So I came across TKO through one of the various social media platforms.
Yeah,
and at the time you were working at the shop.
Yes, yeah.
And you said you had some in, so yeah, just bobbed in, got some.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
It's a similar thing. So when Wave 1 came out, they'd already announced what Wave 2 was going to be, I think.
Yeah.
So I knew immediately I wanted Sentient, so...
It's Jeff Lemire. I would have bought that without the freebie issue, without even knowing what it was about. But spoilers. What are your thoughts on Sarah? Is this a pull, a pass, or a dither and talk for 20 minutes, Zach?
This is a pass for me.
Gosh,
I do feel like Will's probably right, and as a trade, it's probably quite good. But as a standalone first issue, it wasn't enough to get me.
I have a feeling that I will inevitably buy it because there was so much that I liked that I'm going to have like some of them, but more than 4 of them, and then I'm going to I need to complete my collection, but it will be my very lowest priority, unfortunately, Sarah.
I do think you have the benefit as well of, for a company with only 8 books, I think it feels very similar to like the way I feel with Valiant, of there's so few Valiant titles really that I can have them all, and I kind of feel the same with this.
And it's the same with me with the T-Pub stuff.
Yeah, it's like I can follow TKO, and if they release 4 books a year or 4 books every 6 months, there's nothing to stop me going, all right, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and I do exactly that with T-Pub. I've got everything that they've ever released, including the one aimed at 5-year-olds.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
It's really lovable. It's called The Adventures of Chub Chub, and it's about this little boy who's just... It's quite like that thing about the tiger and the Calvin and Hobbes, but without Hobbes. It's really well done. I loved it, and I just bought it for completion's sake and was really surprised how good it was. Anyway, that's another company that we can
do a T-Pub special.
We could do a T-Pub special.
I feel like they've got more books than TKO though.
Not that many more. They've got less franchises, because there's like 7 or 8 volumes of Twisted Dark, and anyway, we'll talk about them another time.
Yes.
Shall we move on to Good Night Paradise?
Indeed.
What I liked about the art, right? What I really liked about the art was that it was so good at portraying the grubbiness of homeless people. It really, really worked for me. The artwork from the very first few panels, I was like, you could almost... I tend to deal with a lot of homeless people in my old job of working in a library. I worked in a library for 7 years, and you see life in a library, and a lot of the time you would get homeless people come in, and there is a certain smell that sometimes accompanies these people, and the artwork was so good at getting across the grubby that I could almost smell these people, and that's bloody good artwork, that is.
Artwork's so good you can smell it.
Yeah, I think that was a real standout from this, is how good the art was.
Yeah.
It reminded me a bit of Steve Dillon, when there's so much detail that it becomes almost gross.
Yeah.
Because they're going to such lengths to draw all the various sort of wrinkles and hairs that it gets to the point it's almost like you've magnified something and it looks a bit grim.
It's in HD.
Yeah.
It's in HD.
HD art.
HD smell-o-vision. Maybe.
Unlike some of the other books, the colours are really subdued, but it means when there is a moment of quite vibrant colour, it really stands out, because there are a lot of just sort of greys and pale blues and...
Yeah. I think out of all 8 of them, this was my favourite artwork. I think, because I've noted just how much I loved. There wasn't any bad artwork at all. I think they've got some. There are no absolute bum comics in the whole run of 8, and I think that's really impressive. And the fact that there aren't any that we can go, well, that one wasn't very good. This is clearly the worst. Even I put a massive caveat on why I didn't like Sarah, because I'm just not into war fiction. But it doesn't mean that the artwork wasn't great. It doesn't mean that the book wasn't actually really very good. But Goodnight Paradise, I read the premise and I was like, really?
Yeah, I mean, so, murdering the homeless community on Venice Beach is essentially the premise.
Yeah, with a homeless man as the main protagonist doing like a PI kind of thing.
Which I guess we rarely see. It's normally, even if there's a murder in the homeless community in a story, it's always told from the detective point of view. Or an outsider to that, so seeing it from the inside is an interesting spin on it.
What I like about it is it's a big fuck you to American television where everyone is pretty. Everyone is pretty. They might have problems, but it's never that they're homeless. It's never that they might be a bit whiffy. It's never that they're unkempt.
Yeah.
And
They might have anger issues, but damn are they hot.
Yeah, well, yes. But you know what I mean? That everyone is so shiny in American television and film and probably comics. When you actually... the majority of comics, Captain America's hot. Everybody is hot.
Villains tend to be ugly.
Yes.
But your heroes...
There are exceptions to that. There's some real pretty villains out there, man.
Oh, that's true.
Doctor Doom.
Of course.
He's got a nice face. He hasn't.
A nice metal face.
He has.
Yeah. His metal face is beautiful.
It is. But no, I think this was a brave title, because as much as a lot of us write on lefty liberal woke types are very much in support of helping the homeless community, it very much pushes against the heroes are pretty vibe that we have built, or has been built by the media.
Yeah.
And I think it really, really benefits from that. I don't know what I expected. I'm quite a contrary person in general, so the premise sounded great to me, but I expect this to have sold the least.
So I'll let you.
I was just going to say, I don't know.
No, I'd be interested to see whether...
I could see it being a possibility, because I must admit, on the surface, in the first few pages, when I thought it was just about this homeless guy, and we were going to see his life, and maybe his relationship with the people around him, I was thinking, it's interesting, but it's kind of not what I come to comics for. I sort of crave that escapism.
Yeah.
And I felt that there might be other mediums in which I could take this story.
Yeah.
But bring in the murder mystery,
yes,
and then I was on. That was
completely compelling
turning point for me.
This was one of the titles I was most curious about, with it being Josh Dysart, and one of the things that I kind of realised when I was reading this is, so in his Harbinger run, they end up homeless for some time, and so that is, I do wonder if that's kind of a recurring thing with him, like,
Could be.
Harbinger kids end up homeless.
I think
It's for just the homeless community. Maybe that is something that...
I think there's very much a emphasis on the idea that anybody can become homeless in this book, which is an important message, but it's not hammered into your throat, because there's a fantastic and compelling murder mystery coming on that will also engross you. But the message is there, and it's quite subtle, but it's an important one, I think. I just loved this book. Going into it not knowing what to expect and thinking I probably wouldn't like it, and like you said, the first few pages lull you into this is a gentle story about a homeless man's life. Oh shit, here we go. It just grabbed me. It absolutely grabbed me. It's bleak, it's cynical, but it's strangely compelling, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. Sorry, I got quite excited.
That's alright, that's fair.
I think I probably do view this lesser to some of the others so far.
Okay.
I think it's probably not my absolute favourite, but I say by the end, that hook that they purposely put there to snag my mouth, they got me.
Yeah, and it's absolutely a cliffhanger winner, isn't it? I think of the first wave, this was the standout for me.
I wish I could have told you without having read 2 of the first wave, because I could have done it. I think you're right. I think Sarah probably is the weakest first issue.
Right.
But I loved it so much by the time I got to the end of it, I can't...
Which is fair,
I
know.
can no longer view it in that critical sense.
Well, obviously, it's a massive pull for me. In fact, I already own it. I haven't read it yet, but I already own it. Zach, pull or pass? Or Fanny around?
I'm gonna pass, but I'm kind of... Not even through a lack of curiosity, I just think out of the 8 titles, this isn't in the top 4 for me.
Good grief.
I'm interested, and I like what the first issue is, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not a murder mystery guy.
See, I love murder mystery, which again goes back to the fact that Will bought the war one because he's into war stuff. And I love a murder mystery.
I mean, I think he bought it because he's into Ennis stuff, technically.
True, but I've seen all of the episodes of Poirot, and I'm not remotely ashamed of that. Fucking love me some David Suchet and Nat Tash.
David Suchet is
good times.
He is the best.
But I've always loved a murder mystery. So yeah, but
Pete Ustinov can do one.
Perhaps that's why
Ustinov was okay.
No Suchet.
He's definitely no Suchet. No. I think perhaps because I love murder mystery and I wasn't quite expecting this to be a murder mystery, I got all excited. But I don't care. I loved it, and pull or pass.
I think if it was more of the first half, it'd have been a pass. But with the murder mystery, it's got me. I'd pull that.
See, I'd almost go the other way in a sense, because I read all of Jeff Lemire's miserable and brilliant little bits of graphic novels. I think I'd have been quite happy to have a little...
You're talking like stuff like Roughneck?
Yeah. I'd have been quite happy to have a little jaunt through the... Jaunt's not the right word here.
No.
A look into the homeless community and see...
Crawl along your face.
Yeah. Sure.
Through glass.
That
sort of...
I think I would have been down with a graphic novel looking into that.
Have you read Blankets?
I haven't, but I've heard good things about Blankets.
Blankets is like you were talking about before, Will, not what you would expect and possibly not what you're looking for in a comic book, but it's so bleak, but it's a great book, and I love that it exists, but it is a why is this a comic book kind of moment. So maybe is that the kind of thing you
could be. I'm just
maybe
I'm a very fickle person, so I'll be in the mood for it or I won't. And just sort of the first maybe 6 to 8 pages of this, I was thinking this is the first one that I've read and thought it's not really touching me, this one,
right?
And then the murder mystery made everything for me. That was the twist that sort of made it worthwhile. I probably do lean more in Zach's camp in that it's not my highest priority of the books,
right?
But I think overall I'll find this in my stocking maybe at Christmas.
Good stuff. Shall we talk about we're going to move on to the second wave. There's 4 more books for us to chat about.
The new wave, if you will.
The new wave. We have been going for a long time, but this is what Pull or Pass After Dark is about. No restrictions, yo. Let's move on to Eve of Extinction.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone else talk about it.
So, body horror. Caused by a new microbe in Antarctica. You know how it is. Rain turning men into monsters. Yeah.
It's just another zombie book.
I mean...
It could be.
It could be. It could go that way.
That's how it felt to me. And the horror, the art, it was on it. Yeah. But it just felt to me like just another zombie book. Maybe because I've watched all of Walking Dead, I've read all of Walking Dead, I've read Zombie by Darren Shan, and I've been into zombies. I'm a little bit zombie fatigued.
Yeah, there has been sort of the age of the zombie and the vampire, isn't it?
I've read Marvel Zombies as well. I just read a lot of zombie stuff.
See, I think I'm coming at this from a very different angle where I've passed on most of the things you've just mentioned.
Oh, okay.
So I'm coming at this from a more... Yeah, it is kind of a zombie story, but I've missed a lot of the last 10 years worth of zombies. So for me, I'm not as overdone on the zombie genre, I guess.
Good to go.
I do think Nick Varela's art is kind of just great, isn't
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I can't criticise the art at all. The body horror, and they don't. They certainly make it very visceral, and it works. But
I think even down to the more mundane bits, though, the facial expressions and really clean line work. Yeah, I think it's like pretty top drawer art.
One thing I would say about the art, though, is I struggled with ages. I couldn't work out who was... Were the parents explicitly supposed to be very young, or was that just not quite...
Now you mention it, it's a good point, and they actually don't look much younger than the daughter.
Exactly, that's what I'm getting at. I struggle with the ages. Is part of the story that they were young parents?
I mean, maybe.
Because that's not made explicit through the text.
But that would fit in with the story we have of the broken up parents and things like that. Antonia as well, is difficult to predict her age. I think looks older as the book goes on, almost. And in a technical sense, yes, she is.
So I'm not sure I'd agree that the art is the horror art is great, but I'm not sure that as a whole, I think that because I was struggling, it deterred from the characters and the stories because I couldn't work out ages.
I think I can accept that as a criticism. I think that's
I do think character designs are pretty great throughout. I think everyone looks very, very different. And it's quite, I don't know, just feels very individual, which is nice. I think we do read, well, not just us, but I think the world reads some comics where it's kind of a similar design for a lot of people, and kind of, especially with characters like that we only seen in Peripheral, so like the two helicopter rescue people at the start. It's kind of they still look different from each other, and they're still like individuals in a larger tapestry. Apparently that's how I taught that.
I love the I loved when the neighbour became a monster and was still grumbling about petty neighbour shit. I thought that made me laugh, and that elevated it from I don't want to read this to seeing that it had some merits. That grumpy neighbour monster was great. That was a standout moment for me.
It could be an interesting aspect, because the first guy that turns he's the real father, isn't he?
Yes,
not
Eddie.
And he still comes in all messed up and zombified, but he's just wants them to stop fighting, because that's the last thing. It seems to be whatever the last thing was on your mind becomes your deadly obsession.
I am interested as well, because we kind of see that it's only men that are turning into monsters. If we're going to go in a kind of, Why the Last Man-esque, all the men end up dead, kind of...
Hadn't spotted that, but you bang on.
They even outright say it at one point, don't they? Sort of say, all the men are...
Oh, do they?
Something like that.
Just dopey then, aren't I?
Page it's on, but I
think it's near the end. What is happening? All the men are just... ...
So kind of interested in all these things. One thing that did bug me, and then again maybe it's a larger thing, is there's no one called Eve. And I really thought, when I first read Eve of Extinction, I was like, one of these characters is called Eve. But then I don't know if that's to play on the fact that, the women are fine and the men are turning into monsters. Eve, first woman, kind of playing into all of the...
But that's even the front cover has the face of 3 women on it. You think at least one of them could be called Eve.
I didn't think that at all, but I can see your point.
I think there's a significance to the name, and I think that name will become clear.
Maybe. I don't really have much more to say about this. Do either of you have any more insights that might convince me that this isn't my least favourite of the 8?
Probably not to convince you otherwise. No.
I don't need to convince you. I'm happy that we disagree. I can live with that. Sorry.
Just 'cause my reading pattern with this one was a bit different than the others, where you start off with an abandoned ship full of monsters at the beginning, and I was all over it.
Right.
When we start getting into the sort of family dynamic, it started to wear a little bit, and then we got back into the monsters, and it made the family dynamic then become important.
Right.
Because who's left to sort of carry on the adventure are these characters that we just learnt about. Admittedly, while I was reading it, I was kind of thinking, okay, this feels a bit kind of rote. Adoptive daughter, mother returns. That that kind of...
But I think it does help to inform what will come next.
Yeah, and I think it did by the end, but while I was reading it was a bit of a lull for me, and then it kicked back in at the end.
Interesting how much both... I have written names down. Both Christine and Elizabeth immediately give up on Eddie. It's like, oh my god, he's a monster. Kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair play.
I mean...
It was a bit meta, that. It's almost like they've seen zombie films.
Which maybe they have.
Which I suppose...
I mean, when you see him, though, like, his face was coming off and his guts were coming out.
Get him with a frying pan.
Yeah, there's a point where you think, even if we save him, what's left?
Well, what we're going to do, you can't sew that up.
He is ugly, we must kill him. Wait, what?
I mean...
I think that's the message of this comic.
Yeah.
It is what it is, Mark. It is what it is. Sometimes you got to kill the monster people with their insides hanging out. If you start falling apart, if you got glowing red eyes and you're looking to eat someone, I say, yeah, you're probably looking for a killing.
True that.
Yes, that's...
I think, obviously, this is a pass for me, but I like the others so much that I'll probably buy it to make my collection complete and my
That's where they
bookshelf
get you.
look pretty.
If you are going to build your collection, you've got to have all of
But
them.
this is a pass, in theory, and it was my least favourite of them all.
Pull up all the way. This is, in contrast to you, probably my second favourite of them
Good
all.
grief.
Yeah, it's
Every
up there,
time.
up there for me as well. I think I'd pull it too.
Fair enough. Well, this is why we have the conversation, right? Because not everyone's jam is everyone's else's jam.
It's the beauty of it, isn't it?
In it. Comics.
I do love jam.
They is well good. Shall we look at Sentient?
Yes.
I think it's completely unfair to compare 8 books to each other when one of them is written by Jeff Lemire.
I don't even think it's that. I think all of them are pretty distinctly different genres. I think.
Yeah.
Even though it's close. Jeff Lemire is my favourite creator here. I was going to say...
Yeah, me too.
He was probably the biggest name, but he isn't. I think Ennis is a bigger name.
I think Jeff Lemire and Garth Ennis are clearly the big hitters of their respective waves. They've got a big hitter for each wave, and of the second wave, it's definitely Jeff Lemire is the biggest. And
I think Lemire and Walter are both big names. I think they've come off some really big projects. Walter with Vision and
yes, which I loved.
Lemire with, let's face it,
Everything best.
literally everything. He one of the most prolific creators, I think.
Yeah.
By a good way at times, it seems.
It's unfair for me to compare anything else to a Jeff Lemire book, because I'm always going to pick the Jeff Lemire book, and that's not a surprise. Everything he's written that I've read, I have wanked over.
See,
Not literally, but metaphorically, figuratively wanked over.
See, I love Jeff Lemire, and I don't think I've ever made any secrets about that. But I will come at it from a different angle and say there have been Jeff Lemire books that have disappointed me. So
Really?
Yeah, stuff like his X-Men run, I felt like was, and he kind of admits it himself, that I feel like it was Jeff Lemire doing X-Men for the money to pay for everything else.
Yeah, and yes, that's fair. That is fair. But even that run was good. I just prefer his own created that.
Yes.
His own shit.
But I think because I know that stuff like X-Men hasn't, resonated with me in the same way, and I've been like, this isn't the best of Jeff Lemire, I think it does mean that I come to a lot of his titles with a kind of, am I going to like this? I know at first Trillium didn't really...
Loved Trillium.
But on that first flick through, it was like, I don't know if I care about this. I think it only took me reading a lot of other Jeff Lemire to then go back to Trillium. And I think if I hadn't persevered and stuck with other books by him, I don't know if I'd have gone back to Trillium.
I adored Trillium.
But had you read more Lemire before?
Yeah, I think you're right. I'd read Trillium going into it going, this is Jeff Lemire, it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah. So Trillium was one of the first
But if he
Lemire
ever
books
gets
I
it
tried
wrong...
to read, and
But if he ever gets it wrong, I will be devastated. Because I'll sure as hell notice it if it's not up to scratch. And... this was definitely up to scratch. This is something very special. Full disclosure, I have read this. I have read all 6 of these.
So have I. I mean, I won't give too much away. I know Will's going to be reading it soon.
Let's see.
I do think I think it wears its influences on its sleeve. I think 2001 is right there.
And I have said this about Jeff Lemire in the past, is that he may not have the most original ideas, but holy shit, what he does with them is second to none.
Yeah, and I think there's a constant thing of, if you can have characters that are, scrappy kids, they're going to be there.
Yeah.
I think Descender, Sweet Tooth, Essex County.
I think one of his big jams is always family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Always has often a parent-child relationship of some form.
Unconventional family as well, a lot.
Yeah.
I think we see a lot of, obviously, Tim, Andy, the family in Descender, who very much aren't a family in in any traditional sense, but kind of a makeshift chaos family.
Yeah.
Same with Sweet Tooth, to be fair.
Throughout Bloodshot.
Yeah. There's a weird family in Bloodshot.
It's a really weird family, but...
It was a weird family in this by the end of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sort of too sycophantic, but it feels like just near perfect comic book storytelling. Like the pacing is fantastic, the art is brilliant, the foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Even to the point where you read stuff and you think, that's a foreshadow.
I think...
Even then, I didn't mind, because when it does happen, you just go, oh, Jeff.
one of my only criticisms of this, it would be that the first issue is exactly what the blurb tells you it is, and that's almost makes...
I didn't bother reading the blurbs, I just sort of dived in, but that's...
I don't know if it's because I kind of knew I wanted this from when they first listed it, so I've kept up with when it was coming out and stuff, but yeah, the blurb basically tells you rebel attack on the ship, everybody dies, kids are raised by the AI, and it's like, and that is issue 1, so I feel like some of the others, the blurb isn't so, this is the description of issue 1.
The rebel attack bit's a shame, because I think from the very first page shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
So from there you can sort of incite, but why it goes wrong, I think, is the interesting twist in this one.
Yeah.
I think if the best you can come up with for criticism is that the blurb gives too much away, you're onto a bit of a winner, really.
Yeah.
This is what I consider the very best of sci-fi. It's fast-paced. There's a gentle message about modern society in there. There's an element of climate change criticism in there, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It is really scary, and this is what my sci-fi is, and I couldn't sing this book's praises. Again, this is because I've read the whole thing, but even the first issue is great. The cliffhanger is, and this is, of all of the 8 of them, this is the only one that really uses my beloved full-page spreads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All the others fit quite a lot of story in and have smaller panels, whereas there are two or three very significant and very dramatic full-page spreads. The final one where something happens, we know that the parents die, where one of the parents is brutally killed. It was like, oh shit! Great. I think I'm a sucker for a full-page spread at the best of times, but they were done so well in this, and noticeably not done anywhere else really in the other 7 books, that it would have stood out to me anyway, but it really stood out.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I have noted, and I agree, still with myself, cool. I do think this shows that Lemire has come from Descender and has clearly got sci-fi in mind right now. So it shows it's the writing of someone practiced in writing a sci-fi in space universe, and I think Walter carries over so much from the Vision, because we've got the kids in the Vision, we've got kind of menacing AI presence who is scary despite being the mother and the protector, and I think it's a good contrast of, obviously the AI is taking care of these kids, but it's still sinister and still has kind of claw crab hand type things going on at times, and I think the art really nails the kind of sinister.
That's funny.
Family. I don't know how to describe. Sinister but motherly.
That's funny. That's I didn't. Maybe right in the last very end, the sinister came in. But a lot of the times is when she turns off the protocols for the AI. it's the AI sounds the most human. It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix this. And at that point, I felt really endeared towards the AI, and I thought, if this story is, I mean, they say it straight away, don't they? This is a story about our mother.
Yes.
When she said that, I knew, right, we're not talking about a real mother. So when the AI came in, I thought, if this is a story about the AI being the mother, I need it to be something more than what we've seen.
Yeah.
And I think that moment of just a computer panicking and saying,
Yeah.
the first time in my existence, I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm endeared to this.
And it's not
artificial
done in a
character.
campy way, like C-3PO or
It's not done for
or
jokes.
Marvin. Is it Marvin in Hitchhiker's Guide?
Yeah.
Marvin.
yeah.
So that's done in a campy way, or even the droid in the Jetsons. It's always done camp. Whereas this isn't. This is very, very human. You bang on. I hadn't thought about it till you said it, but the trope of a panicking robot is very different to the very real panic of the robot in this.
And I think
Yeah, that's fair.
it endeared me early on. So when it did become sinister, I still thought it might still be all right.
Yeah.
It's scared, but I think it's on the good side.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
I've not read the rest. So I might
this
not.
was always going to be a pull. This has already been pulled, and I'm glad I did. Zach.
I totally agree. It was a pull before it had even come out.
Yeah.
I pre-ordered it forever ago, and I almost feel bad being so like, no, it was a pull. It was always going to be a pull. It was great. I loved it, and it's just a good graphic novel.
Yeah,
and
yeah, it is.
it feels like Lemire doing Lemire and totally nailing it.
I think we've clearly established we've got no problem disagreeing with each other,
Right.
and yet we've all come together and said that this is a brilliant book. I think that means it's a brilliant book.
Yeah, that's fair.
Shall we move on to pound for pound and stop wanking off Jeff Lemire?
Yeah, sorry, Jeff.
No, I love you, Jeff. I want to be your friend. Be my friend. Like, come round for a cup of tea. I'll let you have my special green tea with honey.
Yeah, that's how you get him in.
Maybe. Anyway, pound for pound. Yeah.
know.
Interesting premise.
I know what you're thinking. Another revenge story, but with Mexican wrestling masks.
Yeah, and I like. I know it's so cliche. Blah blah blah. I'm a minority too. I love that it's written about women, and it doesn't really matter that they're women. It's just a compelling story.
Yeah, I think it's just an action movie in comic book form.
Yeah, it does matter that it's women, but it doesn't matter that it's women. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the story isn't about them being women
No.
and becoming strong. They're already women,
Yeah.
and they're
They're
strong.
already strong.
Yeah,
And this is their story.
yeah. It's great. I love gritty stuff. I'm a sucker for something gritty, and I think that this is compelling because of its grittiness.
Yeah, I think it is just a really interesting kind of premise. I do think that there are times when there's kind of a lot of elements in the first issue. So between the actual central plot, introducing all the characters, giving us all the characters' history, giving us the blackouts, I feel like it's pretty heavy on what we get up front. It feels like a lot in 30 pages, which is a criticism I make. Well, not even a criticism, just something I point out a lot on the weekly show. I think is there's a lot happening here.
Yeah, it's a hard balance, isn't it? That I don't think they got it particularly wrong in this, but you are right that there's a lot.
Yeah, and I get that. I do hear the criticism a lot that there's not a lot in a single issue, and I get that. 22 pages, 27 pages, whatever it is, a limit that's pretty firm in comics. So obviously, if you don't know someone's going to come back for a second issue, there is obviously clearly a temptation to be like, here is everything, and hopefully you like something enough to come back.
Yeah.
So I think that was a thing for me here is it's pretty heavy.
Yes, it's definitely heavy, but it is an interesting story.
It is.
Despite all the various positives there, I think this might have been my least favourite for the art. And I just think it might be I find faces a bit sort of clunky.
Okay. I can see that.
I didn't. I know you two really like the art in Eve of Extinction, but the age thing really put me off more than this. I think I don't think any of the art was bad, but my favourite art was definitely in Sentient and Goodnight Paradise. But everything else was still good. But I can see what you mean about the faces. Yeah, definitely.
Just maybe it's been spoilt by the others, but this feels more like an indie book than the others. The others feel like an indie company doing big boy books. And this one feels closer to an actual sort of, perhaps like a webcomic. And it's definitely, it's not to put down webcomics in any way.
Yeah.
But, there's that difference in somebody doing it who is perhaps a very good amateur versus somebody who does it professionally day in, day out.
Right.
For me, at least, this felt on the just slightly rougher side.
I wouldn't be as harsh as you, but I can understand what you're saying. Yes,
I do quite like this. I get where you're coming from. I do feel like maybe with the overall tone and the art and everything, it does feel similar to Dead Eyes.
Yeah,
kind of stylistically.
Yeah, which I love,
which we both love. So, yeah. I do feel, again, I've said it with a couple of the other books, that it is a pretty solid cast of characters, I think.
And the relationships are strong in this one, I thought, as well.
I'm realising, having read 8 first issues in like the space of a couple of weeks, or maybe only a week, that
I've read them all in one weekend.
Yeah, I think a lot of first issues do have that. We're getting a crew together, and we're gonna we're gonna do this storyline, guys. So we've got that in here with the bringing together of Danny's crew, I'm bad with names today, the cop and the former father figure with half his skull missing. And I think we've seen that in a few books.
Yes.
7 Deadly Sins. It's very much a bringing together of people. I think there's
Dr. Fang.
Yeah, so I think maybe that's a TKO thing, and maybe that's just a comics thing.
I think it's a comics thing.
Yeah, probably. So, but I'm kind of into that, apparently.
Yeah, and for me, this was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there's some really nice art. There's the kind of ready to start a fight Danny with the all blue with the yellow sunglasses.
Yeah,
that's real nice. I think there's some real standout panels. Yeah, like I say, my main criticism is I think it's doing a lot.
Yeah,
but
for me, I feel like we haven't really talked about this book that much, but I also have said everything I want to say.
Yeah, kind of.
For me, it's a pull. It's a lower level. It's a mid-table pull, but it's still a pull. I'll certainly buy Sentient, Goodnight Paradise, and probably the Banks before I buy Pound for Pound. But yeah, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, I think this is a pull for me as well. I'm hoping that everything being so upfront means that it's a little bit more balanced from issue 2 onwards. But yeah, I'm curious about where we go from here.
Just to be different, then. No, I teeter on this one because I think the first bit with the fight, I thought the art was quite good, but actually I didn't really like the dialogue. I didn't really like her as a character in those opening exchanges, and it isn't until, like you say, the band gets together, and it's like it becomes that 80s like lock and load action movie that I thought, actually, yeah, maybe I could be into this.
I don't think Danny starts off as the most likeable character. It takes
but not
half an issue to come together.
Also, not dislikable in the way that I like. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get characters, so you think, oh, you're a real bastard, you, but I like you.
Yeah.
It didn't, for whatever reason, just didn't quite click for me, so I probably will end up reading this, but I'm going to say pass.
Fair enough. And we'll finish with the Banks.
Indeed. I keep saying indeed today. I need to turn it down, but the Banks, because theft is a family business.
Yeah,
that's my intro gambit.
So, it goes a little somewhat like this. Couple having couple time, couple having couple time, couple having couple time. Fucking thieves!
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Loved it. And I was like, the fuck? Loved it. Loved it.
I feel like that feels like the opening scene of a film.
Yes,
Quite
very
easily.
much so.
I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of the TKO books do feel quite cinematic in the presentation.
I think so, fair. Yeah,
I think
some
see
some
that.
of them, but
some more than others.
yeah.
But
I found myself liking the thieves more than the banker, which kind of twiddled with my morality, because thieving is bad, okay, and honest job in inverted commas is generally less frowned upon than nicking shit.
But I almost feel like the protagonists are all three women of the family. So I've got names. We've got Clara, Cora, and Celia. Yeah. Had to make a note of that because I kept.
No, I'm cramming that.
Yeah.
The flashbacks were a bit tricky to follow
Yeah,
at times.
we don't see. Well, I guess we do see bits of all three of them, and I guess that's the point. Although,
Yeah.
Celia isn't the most likable of the three. I think that's kind of okay because
That's the banker.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of okay because I think from issue 2 onwards we're going to see all of them together as a team. And
It's very difficult to feel sympathy for a banker who already earns thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds and is having a bit of a wah-wah because they didn't get the promotion they wanted.
but after this next big job, we'll be set for life.
I think they've made that very purposeful decision, haven't they, to say
Yeah.
she's the one with the honest job, but that honest job happens to be like capitalist thief.
Yeah.
Hedge fund thief of the world.
It's a very political book, and I love that. I've always been very, very, very left wing, and I feel that the politics of this book suits my politics, which is
Yeah,
probably gonna make me like it more.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair.
Which is a bit, on my part, is a bit shallow. But aren't we all a little bit shallow?
Absolutely.
I do quite like this, and I agree with what you're saying. I think the politics behind it are good politics. I think the details of the interconnectedness of the flashbacks and the different stories being told does really work. So little things like seeing Clara teach Cora to pick locks, and little like single panel things that kind of tie it all together, really nicely done. That's my thing. Artwork is really nice.
Yes.
It's very clean. It reminded me, not so much in style, but in vibe, of things like Alex and Ada.
Right.
Where it's
It's like a Jonathan Luna, who we've talked about recently.
Love Jonathan Luna.
But in as much that it's not there to it's there to help tell the story. It's not there to sort of stand alone as its own. It's very it's simple, it's clean, it shows you exactly what it means.
Yes.
Say compared to somebody like Christian Ward,
Yeah.
whose art is quite sort of psychedelic and up for interpretation and things outside of panels, and I think it works for this book because it's quite a serious story about quite serious subjects, to be quite focused in its art and just say, look, this is your story.
Yeah. And I do think there's interesting themes here, like being not a criminal making you the black sheep in the family.
Yeah.
Which is a nice twist, and I'm kind of curious as how we're going to get. This is another book with family, so
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how the family dynamic develops and how they work together.
I think with this book, the premise was my least favourite of all 8, but I came out of it liking this book, probably top 2 or 3. Top 3. This was my 3rd favourite, and that was a surprise to me. In as much as a surprise that I didn't get on with either Extinction.
Yeah.
I think this is exceptional storytelling, and I do feel like my emotions and my emotions have been manipulated, and my morals have been questioned, and I'm glad. I'm really glad, because that's good literature. It makes you think.
Yeah. I think it's all of that. The only bit I found very slightly disappointing, I think this is maybe as a result of reading all of these quite close together.
Yeah.
All the others seem to have a bit of an uplift at the end, where on a dime, the story kind of changed, and it said, you thought it was this, but actually it's this.
Yeah,
This was the only book that from the very beginning...
this is exactly what it says it's going to be. I think.
And it remained that. I mean, as
I'm
you say,
okay with it, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm not saying you have to have a massive twist, but...
I don't think it's that big a criticism, but I think because I read them all together, each one that had this sort of upturned twist really got me excited about it. And
Right.
this one, I got to the end and I thought that was good.
But maybe
I didn't feel like I could really looking forward to the next issue.
But maybe the twist is that there is no twist.
The biggest twist of all.
Yeah.
Somebody should tell M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, night.
But I do like this. I think Ming Doyle's art works, and I think Roxane Gay. The only other thing I've read by Roxane Gay was World of Wakanda, which is also pretty great. So
Okay.
I'm not sure really Roxanne K. offhand.
yeah, I think this.
I'm terrible with writers' names. If they're not Jeff Lemire, they're somebody else.
But yeah, I like this. So this is the first book from TKO written by a woman as well, which is
That's that's important. I hadn't really crossed my mind because I don't really think like that. But good.
yeah. I think it has across all 8 books. It is a good balance of creators.
I think so.
So Mark Banks, pull our pass.
It's not only a pull; it's a high priority pull, which was a nice surprise.
Yeah,
I've already bought Goodnight Paradise, which I haven't read yet. I've bought and read Sentient. Banks is the next one that I'm going to buy.
yeah. I'm inclined to go with you on that. I think it's a pull for me as well. I'm curious as to where it's going to go. I feel like we're going to get something of a heist story, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
While it doesn't have some of the more sort of fantastic elements that I really liked out of Dr. Fang, Seven Deadly Sins, it's a pretty strong pull for me, this one, I think.
Before we finish, what do we actually think of this format, of this marketing strategy of TKO? I really, really think it has completely worked for me. Give me 8 free comics, make them good, and suddenly I've got a list in order of their books that I'm going to buy. Well done,
Yeah.
TKO, you got me hook, line and sinker. Good for them. Great marketing.
I know people, and not to tread on Fraser from your previous show, have complained about people not buying singles and buying trades. And I know I've heard that complaint working in a comic shop. I heard people buy the first issue and then they buy the trade and it's killing the industry. But I think if you give away that first issue and say, try it, see what you think. If you like it, buy the book. If not, totally cool, don't buy the book. I think it is what the industry needs.
I think it's a modern look at it. Yeah, you're right.
It has to change, doesn't it?
I know Scout Comics are doing a similar thing at the moment where they're releasing first issues and then they're going, the trade's going to be out in 3 months. There's not going to be any other singles. If you like it, cool. If you don't, also cool.
Fair enough.
So I think that is a way a lot of people to kind of try out comics. So I think acknowledging that and saying, well, let's not force you to buy 6 single issues and then hope someone else will buy the trade. I think giving something away and then hoping people want more of it is a good format. I like it.
I like that they offer both, though. You can get the singles in a display case, or you can get the trade. So you can still, if you're a singles guy, you can still...
I wanted to buy the singles in the boxes because I thought they were prettier, but they are significantly more expensive than the trade. Yeah. And I wanted to buy Sentient immediately, so I bought the trade of it because my local comic book shop didn't have the singles. I almost regret it, but because I'm going to save some money, I don't regret it quite as much as perhaps I could. But I think that the singles in the box are so pretty that for people who like collecting pretty things and people who like comics, the fact that there are the two it's fantastic.
I do think it's really good for the kind of problems within comic books. So people who, so you have a lot of people who purely buy comics to sell comics. So people whose entire thing is, I don't care about comics, but I'm going to buy them, get them signed, and sell them. And I think TKO's model kind of counteracts that immediately by being, well, there's no hard to get singles, there is no variant covers, all these things that people profit off of. We just want to make some comics. And that's cool, and I'm with that.
Yeah, I'm really into that. I think it is a bit of a piss take to your fan bases, to be honest, where they just say, well, we're not getting any new readers, so I'm just going to make you buy 6 of the same thing.
Yeah.
To bump our numbers up.
Yeah. I think it's a very modern take, and I think it's intelligent in both that it appeals to fans, but it will get them a hell of a lot of sales.
I think it feels like something that's aimed at readers rather than collectors, which...
That's me.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. As 3 readers, that's great for us.
Yeah. That is a very long edition of Pull or Pass After Dark. Thank you so much for joining us, Will.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to see you.
He's been Zach, and I've been Mark. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.